Here is an explanation for the answer to final exam question number 100 in Alternative Energy Demystified, 2nd edition. If you have the printed book, please refer to page 332. If a propane-fueled home heating system springs a significant fuel leak, how will you be able to tell? A. Will you always hear a loud hissing noise? Well, no. You might, but you probably won't hear anything. B. You'll sense a decrease in indoor humidity. Well, no, the fuel leak isn't likely to affect the humidity inside of the house. C. You'll probably detect a rotten egg-like odor. That's the answer. I don't happen to think it smells like rotten eggs myself, but it does have a particular odor that you will not forget once you've smelled it. It's something like methane, but not quite the same as methane gas. That both propane and methane have chemicals added to them to make them smell a certain way so that you can tell if you've got a leak, and that's exactly what you're going to be able to do unless you have a really bad cold or something and your sense of smell is impaired. D, your house will probably get too hot. Well, seeing as it's a heating system, and if you have a fuel leak, if anything, your house is probably going to get too cold. That if your house does get too cold, it might mean that you have a fuel leak, but it could also mean a lot of other types of system malfunctions. So E, of course, is not the correct answer. Once again, the choice is C. Let's look at a schematic diagram, or rather, it's really more like a block diagram of a propane-fueled home heating system. This one happens to be a forced air system, just like the methane system, except instead of methane coming into the furnace, you have propane. And here is propane is quite often, in fact usually, supplied on site in a tank that has a shape that closely resembles a fat sausage with rounded ends. You've seen these tanks, no doubt. You might even have one. I had a property that had one at one time, and I believe that the tank was owned by the came with the property, although oftentimes you will lease these tanks. The place where you're most likely to get the leak is in this fuel line between the tank and the furnace. You should periodically go out and sniff around when it's not windy, and make sure you don't smell propane coming out of here. Especially if it's a strong smell, you will want to get that thing serviced right away, because it's a hazard, a possible explosion or fire hazard, not as dangerous as methane, but it's still not a good thing. So you should periodically have these things inspected to make sure that there's no leakage taking place. Otherwise, this is just the same as the methane-fired systems that have been described in a couple of other questions in this exam. So with that, we conclude the final exam for Alternative Energy Demystified. There's my website. You can find links to more videos on sciencewriter.net. Just go to my video site and look at the playlists. There's some other second editions of Demystified books for which I have provided quiz answer explanations, as well as those are text-based, web-based explanations, and then I've also provided videos for the final exam for several of my books, videos sort of like these. So with that, I will say so long once again from the Black Hills of South Dakota, United States of America, where alternative energy hasn't really caught on all that much yet, but give it time. It's coming.